I'm working on a project that employs 2x2 industrial ribbing. I am using the name that I was taught way back a long time ago. The 2x2 designation will become obvious shortly, but I don't honestly know why it's called industrial rib. My guess is that this was employed in knitting factories by garment manufacturers. It's a little bit beefier than ordinary 1x1 ribbing, and you'll soon see why. Parts of this video are shaky, and I apologize in advance. The reason is that I wanted to hold the camera in my hand to get really close. This is the ribbing used on this Summer Garden Cardigan. Let's talk about a different kind of ribbing today, 2x2 ribbing. You would imagine that that would mean that on the two beds that we're using, it would be set up like this. 2 stitches in work on the far left on the back bed, 2 in work on the front bed, 2 back, 2 front, and so on across. But you would be wrong. That setup would involve 2 stitches out of work between each pair that is in work on any individual bed. Here's the setup that we actually use. 2 needles in work, 1 out of work on each bed. And the reason that works and that they will truly alternate is because of racking. If we rack so that the needles oppose, as we normally do for ribbing, some of them are going to crash into each other. They're in the correct position now. There's the opposing position, which will cause disaster. There's the position that will work. Now when they all come out every row, they'll pass each other neatly. Passaps like to have the first needle in work on the left be on the front bed. It's called the needle rule. And it really does work better for keeping stitches from dropping. So in this case, I would add 1 additional needle on the left just to make that happen. The problem with this setup is you can't cast on very easily using our normal ribbon cast on, the tubular cast on. So here's what we do. Racking 1 full turn of the handle will place the needles in a position that allows for a zigzag row to be knitted, even though it's a somewhat peculiar zigzag row. These are going to be loose stitches at the main ribbing stitch size rather than the size 1 that we normally use to cast on. So for passaps, I still use the black strippers. On most machines now, it is essential to hang the ribbon comb and weights. With passaps, it's optional because of the extra push down provided by the black strippers. Because this is a passap and it has edge clips to help the end needles behave properly, I'll go ahead and put them all in position. I'm going to go ahead and set for the ribbing stitch size. No tight row to begin with because of what we're doing here. Now I'm reaching down to my racking handle. So again, we are racked in such a way that a zigzag will occur, even though it's a funny looking zigzag. We'll knit across. Everything truly did zig and zag across the beds. Reaching down to the racking handle and turning it until we get to the setup we actually want to knit in. Knit 1 more row across, and because of those black strippers, this may feel tight. Also, my mast failed to take out all the slack, so I'm reaching over to manually do that. That could create a mess. Those first 2 racked rows create a closed cast on. So now we can change to orange strippers if on a passap. There are no strippers to worry about on any other kind of machine, so just continue knitting ribbing now. Here I'm working on an actual sweater front and showing you an additional option. I decided to use the black strippers for this one, even though it would be more work, because it made this yarn behave better. Now this project is at the point where we will transfer everything to the main bed and continue to knit stockinette. This was a sweater hem. So there will be 1 stitch of each front bed or river bed pair going onto an empty needle and one onto a needle that already holds a stitch. It's simplest to rack so the needles again oppose perfectly in order to set this up. And this explains why this ribbing is a little sturdier. It actually contains a few more stitches than traditional knit one, purl one ribbing contains. The racked cast on that I showed you does get the job done, but it does not produce the prettiest edge. Done right, it is presentable, as you see here, but I am working on another video with a more advanced cast on for a chain stitched looking edge. So you can look for that in the very near future.